everybody. Thanks for joining us. We take a look at your weekend forecast for January 26th through the 28th. And starting off kind of difficult out there this morning. Not difficult everywhere. A lot of us are seeing just rain, but particularly at higher elevations. Lots of sleet and some snow and some freezing rain mixed in. Travel's a little tough in a few spots still this morning. That should be getting better. Precipitation's actually coming to an end pretty soon. So we can that'll help things out that way. But then we're going to also see some snow later in the weekend. So lots to talk about. Let's get going. First of all, here's what's going on across the country. Here's our storm for today. You can kind of see. We talked about this all week. Storm that kept kind of reforming here across the central part of the country, and then would sort of head off and lose their touch with the source of their energy in many ways. And so we didn't get real heavy precipitation, although it's been kind of heavy this morning at times. But for the most part, as things headed our direction. And then here's our storm within the upper level support for it that's starting to develop. That will go out to sea somewhat, but come close enough to us that we get some snow Sunday afternoon and overnight into Monday. Not a huge system, but definitely some accumulating snow. I think it's looking likely that that's going to happen for us, and maybe enough snow that it's definitely better than it's been. Okay, here's we're going to look at closer in on radar, but here's radar this morning. You can see that continuing to move from southwest to northeast. We have a decent amount of precipitation heading in our direction. And so that is going to be affecting us as we go. As we take a look closer to home, you can see the pink here is definitely indicating places where this is more sleet and a little bit of snow, and it's kind of a mix of precipitation, some freezing rain in there as well. We'll look at temperatures. Temperatures are real marginal, so once the roads get treated, they should be in better shape. Most everybody had school on time around here, but not terrible out there. Like house, it's been just rain. I'm 34 degrees, but just up the hill from me, there was snow on the road, or kind of a slushy, not really snow, sleety, slushy mix. Very much elevation dependent. And I live about 1,100 feet. If you went up to 12 or 1,300 feet, you probably are it's a different story. West of the Greens, basically all rain. And the precipitation will come to an end relatively early this morning by 10, 11 o'clock. We're just showery. Some of those showers could still be a bit mixed. And then we may end as we start to pull in some cooler air as flurries overnight tonight. But the worst of the travel will be this morning. Should be getting better as we go. Let's take a look at that upper level pattern. So here, trying to set the stage for our next system, which actually, if we go back, before we do that, if we go back, here's the precipitation just starting to form, and here's the upper level support for our system. So if we go to the upper level, you can see how that is, where that is. Here's our storm, this storm. But as you can see, we've got this overall trough. And what this storm is, the first storm that's coming through is doing is helping usher in some cooler air behind it. Not yet, but it will. And that's going to set the stage for this next system to take a more southerly track, a more out to sea track, but come close enough, but be snow on the backside. So finally, we're talking about a system that's not some sort of mixed or rain or tough to call, but instead it's going to be all snow, whatever falls. The question is, how close is it going to get to us and how much snow? And we're a little too early to know exactly yet. I would say I think plowable snow is likely, very likely. I think, and it's not, and also I'm pretty confident to say it's not going to be a huge storm. So we're not talking a foot of snow, but I think we're probably talking enough to plow. So at least a couple inches of snow is likely, but it could be, more than a couple inches, but it's going to be definitely not a huge dumping either. Probably less than a foot, probably less than 10 inches for everybody. So as we take a look, I want to talk about temperatures a little bit this morning. So here, let me kind of zoom in. I zoomed in a little bit just so that we can kind of really see what's going on here. So as you can see, if we zoom in even a little bit more, we can pull up some of the numbers. You see, like at top of Stratton here, 24 degrees. So still below freezing as you head up in elevation. Definitely some spots here along Route 11 where we got some temperatures still in the 20s. Lots of 32. If it's 32 degrees, it's probably not too bad for the most part. You can see, but it's basically elevation dependent. So as you head down, we're still 32 to 34 along the Connecticut River Valley. We're good. West of the Greens, we're really good. The temperatures are in the mid to upper 30s here. And if you head north, same kind of thing. West of the Greens, we're fine. The Rutland area is fine. Certainly the everything along Route 7 is fine. But places right along the spines of the Greens, there's some cold spots. So if you're in Plymouth, definitely. If you're and Ludlow certainly heading towards Mount Holly, some of those higher spots, even in Weston, certainly some issues. Wardsboro, even down to Dover, there's definitely some colder temperatures, and that's true even if you head down into Massachusetts with some of those below freezing temperatures. So that's either going to be sleet or freezing rain that's falling for the most part. There was a little bit of snow mixed in with some of that earlier. So you're just going to have to be a little bit careful. And if you're driving anywhere, you want to be careful in terms of the transition from place to place. So yeah, just have to keep an eye on that as you go. In terms of the overall forecast here, I've got freezing rain. It'll mostly be freezing rain and maybe a little bit of sleet mixed in today for what happens, and then rain. And again, most of the heaviest of this falls before noon, even before 11 o'clock for many of us. There could be a little bit of leftover. We could transition to flurries by later on in the afternoon and the evening for whatever's left over as the cold air starts to move in. Overnight, we'll have some flurries. I would not worry about this too much in terms of the roads, and we're not going to crash down real cold. So refreezing on the roads is not, black ice shouldn't be a huge problem. It could be something you got to be aware of, but it shouldn't be terrible. You have more problems with if we were going to drop down into the low 20s, and where even if there's a little bit of salt on the road, you can get a little bit of a refreeze. So I don't think it should be too bad tonight, but you're always going to want to be cautious anytime we've had a lot of rain, and then we get the cold right afterwards. So keep an eye out for that if you're driving later on tonight, but shouldn't be too bad. Tomorrow, nice day tomorrow. Temperatures in the mid-30s. Ski areas should be in pretty good shape. Yes, they've had the rain, but they'll get a chance to groom. Base levels are up pretty good. Not the best skiing weekend, but not bad. We don't cool off that much overnight. We kind of in the upper 30s. The clouds start to build as our system starts to build, and then by Sunday, temperatures in the low to mid 30s, and then we get some afternoon snow. This is not going to be a real powdery snow, but it should be all snow what we get. Just based on at the mid levels of the atmosphere will be plenty cold enough for snow. And so again, afternoon snow and then overnight light snow. It's not going to be a dumping, I don't think, but I think it's going to be enough to probably want to plow. I think it's out of here in time so that Monday, maybe some delayed openings on Monday, but I don't think Monday is going to be widespread no school or anything like that unless something changes kind of dramatically. There's enough wiggle room with this system that we're going to have to pay attention. If it heads here, we'll go back to a map so I can kind of show you. Let's find a map here for you. Yeah. If the system heads, if it heads a couple hundred miles southeast, and I didn't do a graphic for you, but if it heads a couple hundred miles southeast of Nantucket and the islands, then we probably end up with just a light coating of snow. If it makes a run closer to the islands, maybe only 50 miles offshore or something like that, which a bunch of the models, probably more models take it slightly closer to us, then we're into some enough that we're 5-6 inches of snow. Wouldn't be surprised at all to see something like that ballpark. I will have a forecast out for you tomorrow, probably afternoon. Or at least like noon to sometime in the afternoon, they'll have a snowfall forecast for you. By then, we should be able to kind of once the storm kind of gets going here, once the storm clears through, should give the models a chance to really hone in on exactly what's going to happen. But if I had to guess right now, I'd say somewhere in the 3 to 6 inch range. Generally, with the potential for a little bit more than that or a little bit less, depending on exactly the storm track. So let's get back to that, to the weekend highlights. Both today and Sunday overnight bring impactful weather. Obviously, today brings rain for areas below 1,500 feet. That's about the cutoff, with some freezing rain, sleet at higher elevations. Saturday is quiet. Sunday evening, a coastal low approaches, which will bring light to moderate snow, as I talked about, definitely enough so that it will be slippery. Anytime late afternoon through early Monday morning, I think will be slippery, and then it'll get better, and it'll be nice to actually get some snow. Next week looks pretty quiet, with temperatures not that cold, but also not way above average. Pretty average temperature-wise, with mostly around freezing, around low upper 20s, low 30s for most days, and overnight lows in the teens or 20s. So generally a pretty quiet weather week next week. The end of the week might bring some interesting weather, but plenty of time before that would happen. So want to really encourage you to subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel before. It's been good to get to 1,000. That's been really cool. And I appreciate everybody who has subscribed. It helps make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. And I do want to let you know that if you are interested, I do have patrons. All of these patrons kind of help support the channel financially in terms of getting me making sure that I can get the equipment that I can and for my time. And so I appreciate their help. They help make this channel happen. And if you're interested in it, there are some advantages. You get some extra things you get as a patron in the link in the description below. You can check that out, and it talks about I've got information about what exactly patrons get. All right, I will be back tomorrow afternoon with a look at the storm that's going to happen on Sunday afternoon into Sunday night, and then I'll be back on Monday morning with a look at your work forecast.